NASA's Orion spacecraft was placed in lunar orbit on Friday as it neared the halfway mark of its test flight. About 10 days after the spacecraft blasted off from Florida bound for the moon, flight controllers successfully performed a burn to insert Orion into a distant retrograde orbit, NASA said on its website. According to the U.S. Space Agency, Orion will fly about 40,000 miles above the moon. Orion will take about a week to complete half an orbit around the moon. It will then exit the orbit for the return journey home, according to NASA.
Away from the lunar surface as we orbit around. That's part of why we're calling it distant. And we call it retrograde because the moon orbiting the Earth in this direction, and then we're entering into our orbit in this direction. Opposites, retrograde. Now we're choosing this orbit because it's extremely stable. It doesn't cost a lot of fuel to maintain your position there, and that gives all of our engineers, our flight controllers, the chance to really learn about Orion systems in deep space, learn about flying a spacecraft farther than we've ever sent one intended for humans. We're going beyond anywhere we ever went for Apollo. And so we're going to be in that orbit, test out all of those systems. Eventually we'll do a maneuver to break out of that, do another flyby and come home. But for now, looking forward to getting into DRO and really getting our chance to learn about Orion on this Artemis 1 flight.
On Saturday, the ship is expected to go up to 40,000 miles beyond the moon, a record for a habitable capsule. The current record is held by the Apollo 13 spacecraft at 248,655 miles from Earth. It will then begin the journey back to Earth, with a landing in the Pacific Ocean scheduled for December 11th, after just over 25 days of flight. The success of this mission will determine the future of the Artemis 2 mission, which will take astronauts around the moon without landing, then Artemis 3, which will finally mark the return of humans to the lunar surface. Those missions are scheduled to take place in 2024 and 2025, respectively.